A property manager once showed an applicant exactly why he had been rejected. Steady job, no red flags on paper, never missed a bill in his life. She turned the screen around and pointed at one number. Utilization, 61%. He stared at it for a few seconds, convinced there had to be some mistake. I pay my card off in full every month, he said. And he wasn't lying. He genuinely did. That's the detail almost everyone misses. Because if paying your bill in full every single month isn't enough to protect your score, then something else decides the outcome. Something almost nobody explains until you go looking for it yourself. Almost everyone believes the same story. You spend on your card throughout the month, the bill arrives, you pay it, clean slate. Bureau sees zero, life moves on. That's not what happens. Not even close. Your bank isn't watching to see whether you'll pay, and it isn't checking in halfway through the month to give you credit for good behavior. Once a cycle, on one specific day, it takes a single frozen picture of your balance and mails that picture to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. That day is your statement closing date. And here's the part that changes everything. Your due date lands weeks after that, sometimes 3.5 weeks after. That's because banks don't score your intentions. They score whatever the system happens to see. Most people think they're managing debt. They're actually managing photographs. Go back to the applicant for a second. His statement had closed on the 9th, and that day his balance sat at $2,800 on a $4,000 limit, 70% utilization. The picture got taken, it got mailed off, and it was locked into his file for the entire month. Then, on the 3rd of the following month, his due date arrived, and he paid the full $2,800 on time, in full, zero interest, zero fees. None of that mattered to the photo that had already been sent. In it, he looked like someone drowning in debt, even though by the time anyone actually checked his file, he'd already cleared it completely. Banks don't see your financial month. They only see the frame they choose to keep. You'd expect a detail like this to be minor, but it isn't. It's almost a third of your entire score. Credit scores are built from 5 ingredients. Payment history sits at the top at 35%. Did you pay on time or not? And right underneath it, at 30%, sits something called amounts owed. Strip away the label and it's really just one thing, utilization, or how much of your available credit shows up as in use on the one day the picture gets taken. 30% of your entire score, decided by a single frozen moment. A moment most people don't even know exists. It goes deeper, too. Because this isn't just about your total credit across every account combined. It's card by card. You could hold $90,000 in available credit spread across 6 different cards, completely clean on 5 of them. And if the 6th, some small store card with a $600 limit, happens to be maxed out on its statement day, that single card drags your entire score down with it. The algorithm doesn't average your good behavior against your bad luck. It sees one red account and reacts to it alone. People sitting at 780 have watched their scores fall 30, 40 points in a single cycle, with no missed payment and no new account opened. Nothing that looks like a mistake by any definition they were ever taught. Just one card, one bad day, one photo they didn't know was being taken. Here's the part that actually works in your favor though. Utilization has no memory. A late payment can sit on your file for 7 years, but this isn't like that at all. It resets completely, every single cycle. The number reported this month means nothing the moment next month's number takes its place. Which brings us back to the applicant one more time. Imagine that same applicant had known one thing the system never tells you. That the picture isn't taken on the day you pay. It's taken days before your bill even exists. If he'd known that, the story would have ended differently. A few days before his statement closed, he could have checked his balance and found it sitting right where it was. $2,800 on a $4,000 limit. And instead of waiting for the bill like everyone else does, he could have logged in early and paid it down himself, days before the statement even closed, dropping it to $80. When the 9th arrived and the bank took its picture, it wouldn't have captured $2,800 anymore. It would have captured $80, 2%. And that's the number that would have gone to the bureaus, the number his score would have reacted to. Weeks later, on his actual due date, he'd have simply cleared whatever small amount was left. Nothing about his spending would have changed. Nothing about his habits would have changed. The only thing that moved was the timing of the photo. Here's where most people, the moment they learn this, swing too far the other way. They assume if a low number is good, 0 must be perfect. Every card, every month, reporting nothing at all. It isn't perfect. it's actually a quiet trap of its own. When every card reports zero month after month, the scoring model has nothing left to judge. It can't tell the difference between someone who manages credit carefully and someone who simply isn't using it, and that uncertainty doesn't work in your favor. The people sitting near the very top of the range, the 820S and 830S, usually aren't reporting zero everywhere. They're reporting something small and deliberate. There's a name for the method that threads this needle correctly: all zero except one. Pay every card down to zero before its statement closes, except a single one, and on that card, leave a tiny balance on purpose, something close to 1% of its limit. A $2,000 limit might mean letting $20 report instead of nothing. That small number tells the algorithm two things at once: that you're actively using credit and that you're keeping it fully under control. None of this resembles carrying debt. You're still paying everything off, in full, before your due date arrives. You're simply deciding what the picture looks like, instead of leaving that decision to a system that was never going to explain itself to you. Open almost any banking app and you'll notice something interesting. The due date is impossible to miss. It's bold, it's front and center. Sometimes it's the very first thing you see when the app opens. The closing date, though, almost feels hidden. Buried a few taps deep, worded differently on every app, easy to scroll straight past. That's not an accident. One date protects the bank from late fees. The other determines what the credit bureaus actually see. And only one of them gets marketed to you. Once you know where to look, the rest of this runs almost on its own. A reminder set 2 or 3 days before your closing date gives you enough room to log in, check where your balance sits, and pay it down to that small deliberate number before the bank ever takes its picture. Autopay won't do this part, since it exists to protect you from late fees, which means it typically pays only after your statement has already closed, after the photo's already been taken and mailed off. What autopay is good for is the small remainder afterward, the tiny balance left behind on purpose, cleared by the real due date without you having to think about it again. The only real caution here is not to turn this into a cycle of maxing a card out, paying it down, and maxing it back out again before the next statement. Banks read that pattern as risk, not discipline. If you find yourself constantly bumping against your limit, the better move is asking your issuer for a higher one. More room, automatically, means lower utilization without any of the timing games at all. In the end, nothing about your finances changed. Not your income, not your spending, not your discipline. Only the picture. And sometimes, that's enough to change the number that decides how expensive your future becomes.